Hello, everyone. Hello. Good to see us all here again. Um, Thank you so much for hopping on this. Trust you're well. Trust you've had a good week. Your day is going great as well. Today, I'm just going to jump right into what I have for us. Um, so last week, I had started sharing about how the Lord had been talking to me about relocating to the UK, living Nigeria, leaving my job and going to the UK. And honestly, it didn't make a lot of sense to me because I had a good job. I was happy on my job. Everything seemed fine, right? But if there was one thing, that I knew, that I had been praying consistently, was that the will of God would be done in my life. The will of God will be done in my life. So you may be listening to this and you're saying, okay, this God she's talking about, I don't know. What does she mean, the will of God? So God has created all of us here, put us all here on the earth, and He had a plan and a purpose for every single one of us, even before we, were born. If you have watched my first video, you would see how I read a specific scripture in the book of Jeremiah, right? Where the Bible says that before He formed you in the womb, He knew you, and He has appointed you, for a certain cause. And, this happened long before your father and your mother came together, right? So I had that understanding at that point in my life, and I was earnestly praying that, the will of God alone be done in my life. So the Lord started speaking to me about going to the UK, and I knew, or let me say, I know that when God is speaking to me about something, it is important that, I take it seriously and pursue it. So I started researching how I could migrate to the UK legally because I was one, who, who never stood for people um, relocating any other way, right? Finding the proper process and seeing what the requirements are, what I had to do if I qualified, and then, So I did do my research and I found that the UK actually had a points based program for skilled workers to relocate to the UK, something that's very similar to what happens in Canada, right? So I researched that and I saw that I was qualified, and I actually started putting my documents together. But I must tell you the truth, because again I was working a really good job. I was doing very well. I kind of, dragged my feet even though I was doing all of this research and gathering, documents together, um, just trying to meet all the requirements. So this happened, like I said, it's happened about maybe the beginning of the second quarter of the year. But honestly, I just dragged and dragged and dragged until maybe sometime towards the end of that year. Um, I had just changed roles in on my job, and this new role I was in was just proving a little bit difficult. It wasn't as smooth as the role I had been for the last, I think I'd been on that role for 4 years. Yes, I'd been on that role for 4 years. It was, smooth and easy, kind of like a breeze. But this new role was a bit shaky. So one day I was driving to work and I was just talking to God about the challenges I was facing on this role. And then I heard Him say to me that you are not doing what I've asked you to do. You need to focus on what I have asked you to do. And immediately I knew that He was talking about the fact that I should be working towards relocating, right? So remember that that word came to me in the second quarter of the year, and this was towards the end of the year, maybe like October, November, right? So immediately that word came to me, I just reached out to God for mercy, asked for forgiveness. I decided that I have to go back and pick up from where I had stopped, because again I had been dragging my feet with getting some documents. Some documents, it just seemed like, it was such a hassle to get it together. But I committed to actively doing that now, right? So I was doing it, even though it was a little step at a time, yeah, a little here, a little there, but I actually started doing something about it. So at the end of that year, at the end of that year, I was at my crossover service, and the word that came to us was that we should get God out of the box, that God is limitless and we should take him out of the box. We shouldn't think that, with God, things have to be structured the way man structures things. Things have to fit into a certain mold, right? For it to be considered appropriate or proper or normal. That's not how God works. That we should be able to believe God for the things that seem impossible, right? And honestly, I took that word to heart. I was like, okay, God, you are the limitless God, right? Great. Now, I have a tradition that after a service like that, I would spend time the next day, just, spend time with the Lord. And I did that the following day, which was the first day of January. And, I spent time just praying. And I knew God, was with me, visited me in a special way that morning. Again, because I know that you might be out there and you don't believe in this God, I'm just going to try and make it simple for you to grasp. But I knew that I had a visitation from God, and I knew part of the things that was impressed in my heart is what he had asked me to do. So I had some of the documents, they were not yet complete. But I said to God, I said, okay, God, you are the limitless God, right? That means you can do anything. I felt like God was putting a lot of pressure on me to move and do what he was asking me to do. And then, even though I knew my documents were not together, because I had just come out of a service where I had heard that word that, see, get God out of the box. You don't have to box God in. He's limitless. He can do anything. So I put the documents together. Now, the interesting thing was that the next day, which was the second day of January, my mom and my younger brother were traveling to the UK on holiday, right? So I said, God, you know what? I'm going to put these documents as incomplete and should I say still? Because what had happened is I had gotten bank statements, pay stubs. I had gotten them months before, right? So I didn't really have recent documents, if that makes sense. I had gotten them maybe like 2 months previously. So the documents I was sending, even though it was maybe like the 6 month statements that was asked for, or 6 month stubs, whatever was asked for, I had that, but they were not valid. No, let me not say they were not valid. They were not recent. And then there was also another document that I didn't even have at all, a tax document of some sort. I didn't even have that at all. So I gathered the documents, I put them in an envelope, and I gave it to my mom. And I said, please, when you go to the UK, this is money. Help me post these documents, right? I said, God, you are limitless. I'm putting it in your hands. And I had to pay maybe like £150 or something at that time. Anyway, I did the conversion and I gave her the Naira equivalent. So she changed it into pounds. And then they left with it and, went to the UK. Now, I must tell you the truth. After I came out of that, experience with God, where I knew that God was with me, I knew because I felt his presence strong that morning when I was praying. A couple of days later, honestly, I was in a place where I was like, God, are you sure? My documents were not complete to start with. And then, a lot of them were stale. Like, not stale, but I didn't have recent statements and recent pay stubs and all of that. The letter I got from my company, I got it months before. So I started, having those thoughts like, oh, what if they reject you? What if, But yeah, we're still human. Anyway, so I started trying to get the document that was missing. I, did all I could. I managed to get that document, and then I got more recent statements and more recent documents. And then it turned out that one of my friends was going to the UK a few weeks later. So because I knew that was happening, I quickly got those documents. I put them together. My friend came to, he was actually a client, but we had built a rapport. He was a young guy then. So we built a rapport. And he told me, oh, he was going to the UK. I was like, oh, there's something I have that I would really appreciate if you could help me post when he goes to the UK. And he said, yeah, sure, he would do that. So he came to get it from my office. And that day, I remember taking the documents. I went into the washroom and I was talking to the Spirit of God. I was talking to the Lord and I said, this document, I want to send it to him, send it to the UK through him. Since he's going, I haven't heard from these people. And I don't want, to lose my £150. If they reject my application, or if they decline my application, then that money is gone. And I heard the Spirit of God said to me that you don't need to send those documents. I heard it loud and clear. You don't need to send those documents. And honestly, because my heart was shaky, I still gave my friend the document. And he took it away. He was going to travel maybe like 3 or 4 days after. Or I don't know. He was going to travel soon. So after I gave it to him, I went to my computer station and I sent an email to the UK Immigration Organization saying that I know I didn't have some documents, but I have sent it and it should arrive to them maybe in a couple of weeks, maybe a week or 2 weeks. So the interesting thing that happened was that they replied me, maybe the next day or in 2 days, they replied me and said, oh, a decision has already been taken. We don't need those documents. I must tell you that I felt so foolish. I went back to God. I was like, God, I'm so sorry. Have mercy on me. You told me that I did not need to send those documents. I still remember when I went into that washroom and I was talking to God in the washroom and saying, I want to send those documents because I don't want to lose my money. And he told me clearly, you don't need to send those documents. But, just a part of me just thought, let me just send it so that, But of course, they replied me and said I didn't need that. They had already taken a decision on my application and that I will get the decision letter in a couple of weeks. So, a few weeks down the line, sometime in April, one day in April, I was driving home from work and all these voices were just coming to me that you're going to lose your money. They're not going to give it to you. They're not going to give you the UK visa because you didn't have your documents. They were not complete and all of that. And I remember just, as far as I was concerned, those words were just coming from, I don't want to go into, talking about the devil and Satan and all of that. But the truth of the matter is that is a reality that we cannot escape. But I don't want to go into that because the point of this video is to help you know that there's really a God that loves you, wants to walk with you, wants to guide you, wants to instruct you, wants to, pour out his love on you, wants to help you to be all the person that he has created you to be, right? Anyway, those voices came and I just pushed them away and I was like, well, worst case, what happened was that I obeyed God. I did what he asked me to do. Whatever comes out of it, it's not a big deal. Now, the interesting thing is when I got home that day, I had a letter waiting for me. As I opened the letter, I saw that it was from the UK immigration. It was on the envelope. I opened the letter and voila. That was the letter saying that my application has been approved. I should send my passport to the UK embassy to get my visa. Again, remember in my last video, I said I didn't have to go to the UK embassy for the vacation visitors visas I got. In this case too, I didn't have to go to the embassy. They said send your passport via their agents. So I just went to their agents, gave them my passport, and I went back and I picked up my passport with my UK immigration visa in it. And that was how I migrated to the UK. A few other things happen. I'm going to keep this video really short. Yes, let me stick to 15 plus minutes. My previous videos have been a little long, so I'm going to keep this short, but I'm going to come and share with us things that happened before and after, you know, this incident that I've just mentioned. So again, where am I driving at? There is a God out there. He loves you. He wants to do much more than these things I am sharing. He wants to have a deeper relationship than what I am sharing with you. Open your heart to him. Open your heart to him. Right? If you need to reach out to me again, my email address is in the description. I'm looking forward to hearing from you. God bless you. Take care. Bye now.